Hello everybody, I'm back for another video, and today I have more of a niche topic that's just been on my mind ever since this summer when Stranger Things 4 came out, and that's how to effectively split up your characters in a movie or a TV show or any piece of media, because I will be comparing Stranger Things 4 to the video game Until Dawn, the 2015 phenomenon, if you were on the internet at that time. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Stranger Things or have seen it. Maybe not all of you know or have heard of or played Until Dawn because, well, this is a movie channel and I don't really talk about video games that much, except for today because I make my own rules. Until Dawn is a choose your own adventure game. So basically you play as all these different characters in a friend group of teenagers who all go to this lodge together for a vacation, and then, horror things ensue. I don't want to spoil too much in this video because I really do think it's a great game to go in on blind. When you're playing as these characters, you have choices whether or not your character should do one thing or another thing, and based on your choice, they could either live or die, and it changes the story, like a choose your own adventure book. And ever since Until Dawn, many more of these similar types of games have come out, and I've loved them all. It's a genre I really like to play, and so, I'm excited to talk about this. But why specifically did I choose Until Dawn to compare to Stranger Things? Well, first of all, they both have an unlikable character named Mike. Just kidding, I like Mike in Until Dawn. And a second reason, both of them are more horror-centered, and both have human threats and supernatural threats. So like in Stranger Things, the human threats are like the Russians or Papa, and then the supernatural threats are, Mind Flayer, Demogorgon, and all that stuff. Until Dawn has something very similar where there is both a human out there trying to hurt them, but also something that's not human out there trying to hurt them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, let's talk about why a storyteller would want to split up a group of characters. In big ensemble pieces, especially like Stranger Things, of course you cannot have every character in one scene at the same time because that would just be way too much dialogue going back and forth, and you'll struggle to give every character at least like 3 lines. So that's why, you need to break these people up. Same with Until Dawn. There's 7 or 8 of them. It's less than Stranger Things, but still we need, just for the sake of managing dialogue and making sure every character feels relevant and has something to say. This is the first reason why, one should consider splitting a huge group up. And just from a narrative sense, it makes sense to split up these characters so they can each go do a task that is specifically tailored to their character and whatever their character arc may be. And sometimes characters who are grouped together and split off have aligning arcs. Like, for example, Joyce and Hopper in Stranger Things. Both of them need to, learn to love again and trust people and be in relationships. And so that's why, they are split off together and then have a romance arc together, because both of those characters need to learn to let love back into their lives. But most of the time, characters are stuck or paired with or grouped with and other characters who challenge them, who are basically their foils, the opposites of them, to really, create that witty banter. And it just makes the situation more challenging for that character if they're split off from the group with another person that they don't really like that much. Now, I'm not saying both characters need to hate each other when they're grouped together, but I'm just saying that their personalities need to be different enough to where they'll have lots of disagreements about things. A great example of this in Stranger Things is Steve and Dustin, a popular, peaked in high school kid versus a nerdy, still growing up kid. They're going to have 2 different worldviews, and the banter between them is one of the things the fans love the most. Another example of this from Until Dawn would be Emily and Matt. Now, the 2 of them are dating, and Emily is high standards, she's a little annoying, she's demanding, and Matt is pretty much a doormat. No pun intended. But basically, Matt's kind of over it now, and the 2 of them have to work together as, their relationship is straining when they're under intense pressure of maybe someone trying to kill them. And one of my favorite things about splitting up a group of people is the separation of information. Basically, say there's 2 groups of people. One group is being hunted by a human, and the other group is being hunted by a monster. And say the people being hunted by a human only get information about the monster and be like, what? I don't see a monster. And the people being hunted by the monster only get information about the human that's hunting the other group. And so now the two of them have very relevant information, but that doesn't apply to themselves. So this creates an incentive for both of them, to both the groups, to meet up again and share their information, because it is extremely, extremely, extremely satisfying when you have all these different groups separate at the beginning of a story, go do their own thing, learn their own information, and by the time it's the climax, they all get together again, share all the information they learned, and then go out and defeat whatever they're trying to do in Act 3, like in Until Dawn. Mike is technically the first person to experience, I won't spoil it, but whatever supernatural thing is happening on the mountain. But he doesn't know that that's what happened, so he just assumes it was something like a person. And then later on in the story, Emily also experiences this supernatural thing, and she gets a lot more insight about it. So then she can go back to the group and explain what happened and so forth. If you can't tell already, I believe that Until Dawn does a better job of splitting up characters than Stranger Things 4 does. And I think that's pretty obvious, because I think in this past season, everyone's gripes with it is that the characters are too separated by being in two completely different states, and then another group being in a completely different country. I get it. It raises the stakes, and you don't want them to go back on what they established in season 3, because season 3, they're like, oh, they're going to California. How's this going to work out? And it would not be satisfying if immediately after they move to California, they just go back to Indiana. That's not fun. I just do wish the stories in Stranger Things 4 were more interconnected. Like, we have, Vecna is the big bad. Okay, we all know this, but only one group is dealing with him, and that's fine. But then we have the people in California everyone's complained they feel useless because their entire job is just to meet up with Eleven at the end and still not really do anything, because Eleven's the one helping. And Eleven's story, it basically entirely just takes place in the past, so it doesn't feel like the story's moving forward anywhere, and it's just hours of content until we get the big reveal that number one is Vecna. And then we have the whole Russia rescue team thing, which I thought was fun. And, the climax is that, Hopper sort of fights a Demogorgon, which visually looks very cool and is entertaining to watch, but, narratively, it's like, well, what are we doing here? Okay, we have all these different story elements going on, and none of them are really crossing over by the end. It's just once everything is sort of over, I guess. I don't want to, Vecna isn't really defeated, but basically they all, meet up at the end of the season to be like, oof, what a season, guys. and they don't really ever meet up to actually fight it together. I think what so many people like about Stranger Things is the culmination at the end of every season, where all the characters finally learn what's going on because other characters have gone through something, and it's like, here, let me tell you my experience with this. And then another character's like, oh yeah, I experienced this as well. And then they put together the puzzle pieces and get all the information needed to defeat whatever they're fighting. At the end of season 4, it's like, okay, so like one group fought Vecna, and then no one else really did anything because half of the characters in the show don't even know Vecna exists until like very, very late into the season. And I don't think like Hopper or Joyce even heard the word Vecna at all in this entire season. So, if that's going to be your main villain, you want it to branch over into all the storylines. In my opinion, that is. And of course, I know it's not really fair that I'm comparing this to Until Dawn, because Until Dawn is like a 8-hour video game compared to however many ungodly hours that is Stranger Things 4. What I think Until Dawn does so effectively that Stranger Things has done in the past is, really giving all these characters arcs. So by the end, when they all return and group up together to fight whatever it is in the climax, that these are all different people than that left in the beginning to split up. It's like when at the beginning you leave, and then by the time you get back, the other people like aren't even recognizable because they've gone through so much stuff throughout the story that it's like, oh wow, this is like a completely different person that I'm looking at. Like Mike in Until Dawn, he's sort of like a goofball funny guy, but by the end he becomes a hero. Emily gets severely humbled by, having to climb through like these dirty mines and, really get her hands dirty and do stuff. Chris and Ashley, learn, possibly if you choose this option in the game, they have, their romantic arc together. Now, all these characters are different people just in time for the climax. And I do like Until Dawn's climax because all the characters are under the same roof. They know what they're dealing with. They know what they have to do because they've exchanged that information with each other. And they do it, Of course, there's the exception of Jessica and Matt, which are separated from the group even by the end. But even then, I like it because, these are two characters throughout the story. You think they're never going to run into each other again. And they do. And it's such a surprise, like a good surprise. And be like, oh my God, like both of them are safe now because they have each other. At least if you, play the game right and neither of them die. And I think, the main problem Stranger Things is facing right now is their unwillingness to switch up the groups a little bit, because we've been in these same groupings for a while now with, Steve and Dustin. It's a fan favorite duo, but at the same time, it feels like Dustin is more separated from, Lucas and Mike and Will, and it feels like Will really has no place with any of these characters anymore. As you can see from him crying in the van, like what's even his role in this show anymore? But like, I want to see like Lucas and Joyce team up, it's like those are two characters that, never like interacted with each other. Like, let's switch things up a bit, because I think now with the current groupings we have in this show, they've gotten a little complacent. They have their character dynamics that people love, the wittiness back and forth, but at the same time, it's like these characters aren't really being challenged by each other anymore. It's just like a group of friends going out doing something, and we're like, okay, we did it. And so there's not much interpersonal conflict in there anymore. I did like the flirtationness between Steve and Nancy, and that's pretty much the only interpersonal conflict there is, really, except for like Mike, I guess, just being kind of mean. I think it is important not only just to split up a group of people, but make sure they're interchanging the people that they are split up with so that they can continue to be challenged and grow and learn as a person. In conclusion, I just like the video game Until Dawn, and I will use any excuse to talk about it. I like Stranger Things as well. I'm not saying it's a bad show or like anything like that, but I do think season 4 dropped the ball a little bit on what, all the fans sort of liked about the show, which was splitting up the characters and then bringing them together at the end. And maybe if you're writing something that involves a group of people, I've, encouraged you to split them up a little bit, split them up wisely for a reason, and then effectively bring them together at the end to have a really satisfying conclusion. Speaking of satisfying conclusions, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Check out some of the other videos as you can see on your screen right now, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.